Dear Elias, if you're reading this, it means silence finally won. And maybe that's for the best. Because some truths can't survive being spoken out loud. For years, I thought love was enough to hide what existed between us. I thought if I smiled long enough, you'd believe me. And for a while, I believed it too. But every lie has a sound, Elias, a small one, barely noticeable. It starts as a whisper and ends as a scream inside your head. I don't remember exactly when I started lying. Maybe the day I realized you didn't really see me anymore. Not like before. Not like someone who sees a soul, but like someone staring at an old photograph, trying to remember what they used to feel. That's when silence came in, slow, gentle, dangerous. You always said I seemed distant, and you were right. But not because I stopped loving you, because I started loving you in a way that hurt, a love that begged to stay hidden. Do you remember that night when I said I was tired? You believed me, but it wasn't my body that was tired. It was my guilt. Time passed, and the lie grew with me. 5 years, 5 winters, 5 failed attempts to find forgiveness in someone who never even knew what they were supposed to forgive. I know what you must be thinking right now, that it doesn't make sense, that you weren't the one who did something wrong. But sometimes, Elias, it's when we think we were betrayed that we forget how much we've betrayed too, in silence, in omission, in cowardice. And this is the cruelest part of truth. It doesn't belong to the one who speaks it. It belongs to the one who listens. I'm writing this because I can't keep being who you think I am. And maybe, deep down, you were never really who I imagined either. You used to say I spoke too softly, that my words felt heavy. Maybe they were, because every time I opened my mouth, the truth almost slipped out. You always believed the lie was around you, but you never saw how deeply it lived inside me too. Not in my words, but in the silence between them. For so long, I watched you sleep, trying to remember when we stopped understanding each other without talking. You looked peaceful, but what scared me most was that peace on your face. Like distance didn't hurt you anymore, and maybe that's why lying became so easy, because it was the only way to stay close, without having to explain how far apart we already were. People think betrayal starts with an action, but no one talks about the kind that happens in thought, when the heart starts hiding, and love quietly turns into guilt. I started lying when I realized you already were. Not with words, but with your absence, with your gestures, with that distant look, the one that said you were somewhere else, even while you were here. Do you remember the last time we really talked? I said everything was fine, and you believed me. But inside, I was screaming, and deep down, Elias, I think you knew, because guilt isn't a wall between two people, it's a mirror. And you saw your reflection in mine. Even if you pretended not to, I tried to erase what I did. Tried to turn the mistake into memory, but time doesn't erase what's cowardly. It just changes the name of the pain. I used to watch you smile and wonder, does he feel it too? Does he lie too? Then I realized the answer didn't matter, because deep down, we had both stopped being honest. 5 years. 5 years trying to forget what couldn't be healed. 5 years living with a love that had already turned into memory. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness or to explain what you'll probably never want to understand. I'm writing because if I don't, the lie will keep breathing inside me, and I can't live with something that no longer has a face. Maybe this will be the last thing you'll ever read from me, but somehow it's also the first time I've truly told you the truth. Sometimes I still dream about the beginning, the first touch, the way you smiled when you said my name. Back then, lying seemed impossible, like love itself could protect us from the truth. But love never protects anyone, does it, Elias? You used to say what you loved most about me was my silence. You have eyes that keep secrets, you'd say. Funny how that's what destroyed us in the end. The secrets, the silence, the spaces between words that grew too wide to cross. I remember when you started coming home later. You said it was work, and I wanted to believe you. But every night, your coat smelled like a perfume that wasn't mine. You never noticed. But that's when I started lying too. First out of pride, then out of fear, and finally, out of habit. People think betrayal begins when a line is crossed. But it starts much earlier, the moment love loses the courage to be honest. Elias, I loved you, even when I couldn't look you in the eyes anymore. Even when love started to hurt, more than the silence ever did. You'd ask if I was okay, and I'd smile and say yes, but inside me, the no echoed, loud, trapped, begging to be heard. I wrote this letter so many times, in different nights, in different places, always thinking that if I found the right words, maybe the guilt would fade. But guilt doesn't understand language. It doesn't accept rewrites. It's a dialect only the heart knows, and mine still speaks yours. You know what's strange, Elias? I still remember your voice, but not your touch. Maybe that's how memory protects us. It erases what would hurt too much to keep. If I could go back, I would have told you the truth. Not to save you, but to save myself from the person I became trying to hide it. And maybe, just maybe, if you'd read this letter sooner, things wouldn't have ended this way. The ink has faded, the paper trembles under his fingers. Elias runs his thumb across the words, slowly, as if touching them might bring her back. The house is quiet, too quiet. It feels like even the walls are listening. If you're reading this, he reads the line again. Her voice still lives inside the paper. Each word breathes, like she's still there, writing between tears and regret. And that's when it hits him. She lied too for 5 years. Elias believed he carried the entire weight of guilt. 5 years thinking he was the one who broke everything. But now, the weight shifts. She speaks of a betrayal never confessed, of a scent he didn't recognize, of eyes that belonged to someone else. And for the first time he feels anger, not at her, but at the lie they both called love. He whispers the line again, barely audible. I started lying when I realized you already were. The words echo through the room like a verdict. There are no tears, only silence. A silence that sounds heavier than grief. He remembers the last night he saw her. Clara had been calm, too calm. She spoke softly, smiled like someone who'd already said goodbye. And then she left, no note, no call. Just a box full of old letters he'd never had the courage to open until tonight. Now each line feels like a goodbye, disguised as confession. A slow farewell, a truth that arrived too late. Elias closes his eyes. He can still feel her breath, somewhere between the words. For 5 years, he thought he was the liar. But now he knows the lie was never one-sided. Truth, when shared, destroys twice. He folds the letter carefully, holds it against his chest, and whispers, just above the silence, "You knew too." Elias stands there, still, the letter in his hands. His eyes locked on the last lines, words written in shaky, trembling handwriting. If you ever find this, I want you to know that I loved you, even when I was wrong. But love, Elias, love doesn't survive inside a lie. And I've lied too much to stay alive. His heartbeat slows. The words feel heavy. Each syllable sounds like a goodbye he never heard. He turns the last page. There's a date in the corner, 5 years ago, and under it, a single name, Clara. The pen slips from his hand. The sound echoes through the room. And for the first time in years, the silence feels alive. He understands now. She didn't write for him to reply. She wrote to disappear, to confess, to end the story herself. All those nights he carried guilt, rehearsing confessions he never gave. He was asking forgiveness for something she'd already done. And in a cruel, beautiful symmetry, they both lived the same punishment, lying for love, hurting in silence, each believing they were the only guilty one. Elias walks to the window, opens it. Cold air rushes in. Carrying the smell of rain and paper, he holds the letter one last time. "You lied too, Clara," he whispers, but there's no anger in his voice, no bitterness, only a quiet kind of peace. He watches the letter burn slowly, the smoke fading into dawn light, and for the first time in a long time, he feels light. Not because the pain is gone, but because the truth, even when it comes too late, sets him free. The flame dies. The morning enters, and where the letter once was, only ashes remain. But inside him, something ignites. A quiet realization that love was never the lie. It was the fear of truth that broke them. Truth hurts, but silence destroys two hearts at once.